MMA is one of the world's fastest growing sports, but some countries have taken a bigger interest than others since the explosion of the sport. China, being the most populous country in the world, is consistently targeted by most industries as one which would be a key component for massive growth. Today, we are discussing if the UFC, MMA, will grow to be one of the biggest sports in China. Stay with us. Let's jump straight in and have a look at some Chinese UFC fighters. Well, it's pretty much universally acknowledged that the best ever Chinese UFC fighter is former women's strawweight champion Zhang Weili. However, the first fighter from China to appear in the organization was trailblazer Tiequan Zhang, who made his debut at UFC 127, but only fought for the company on 4 occasions. In the mid-2010s, Zhang Lipeng also appeared in the UFC across 4 fights, finishing his UFC career with a 2-2 record. However, you will probably be a bit more familiar with the organization's 2 current male Chinese stars. Rising bantamweight contender Song Yadong, currently on a 3-fight win streak and holding a notable win over Ecuadorian standout Marlon Vera along the way, is possibly the best Chinese male fighter on the planet right now, whilst his compatriot Li Jingliang is an 8-year veteran of the promotion. Li was last out earlier this month, scoring a highlight reel KO of Muslim Salikov, and has also fought notable welterweights in the form of Hamzat Chimaev and Neil Magny. However, the standout Chinese fighter is the aforementioned Zhang Weili, an absolute brawler and one half of the best women's MMA fight of all time, her first fight with Joanna. Zhang is the only female fighter to ever win a UFC title, and with Carla Esparza as champion, who she has never fought, there's no reason why she couldn't take on and beat the champ in the near future. Next up, we're discussing the UFC's huge Asian growth in recent years. Stay tuned. By all accounts, 2021 was a mammoth year for the UFC in the Asian market. From new broadcasting deals to more Asian competitors than ever taking to the UFC's octagon, the company is thriving in the East. The UFC recently signed a hugely significant broadcasting partnership with Migu, a China mobile subsidiary. And it wasn't just China. After Fox pulled out of the region, the UFC signed up with 10 new broadcasters, which means that for the first time ever, local languages will now be heard on UFC broadcast, as opposed to Chinese people who don't speak English struggling to understand what John Anik, Joe Rogan, and the rest of the UFC's commentary team are saying. Languages will range from Cantonese and Mandarin to other languages such as Thai and Vietnamese, not only to broadcast in those countries, but to satisfy the needs of other Asian countries' expats living in China. And last year, the UFC signed even more athletes from the area to their roster, with 7 new Asian fighters to add to the mammoth success of people like Zhang and Korea's Chan Sung-jung. You just have to look at the UFC's increased social media following in East Asia to realize how much they have actually grown in the past couple of years. Chinese following increased by 40% on social media in 2021, and the UFC has even become the most followed sports organization on Bilibili, a popular video sharing site. What do you guys make of the UFC's growth in China? The new PI is up next. Stay tuned to hear all about it. UFC enthusiasts will be aware of the existence of the UFC PI, Performance Institute, in Las Vegas, which athletes can use for free to train, featuring state-of-the-art facilities and world-class food. And back in 2019, Dana and the gang over at UFC HQ opened up a brand new facility in China to tap into the massive potential in a country which has more than 1 billion people. The center is 93,000 square feet, and much like its Las Vegas sister site, has world-class professionals working there, with the latest fitness and technological equipment designed to give their athletes the best chance of success. Athletes are given their one customized training regime, as well as meal plans, all designed to help them improve their fight game. The UFC sees China as a huge market and are willing to develop their fighters to create more of a buzz. I mean, you only have to look at how many tickets someone like Paddy Pimblett can sell when he fights in England. So just imagine a card full of Chinese fighters in Shanghai or Beijing. There's nothing people love more than to cheer on a hometown hero. The UFC's decision to build the Shanghai PI was vindicated just a few months after opening the facility, when Zhang Weili went on to claim the strawweight world title. Who is your favorite Chinese UFC fighter at the moment? Let us know below. We're talking the UFC's partnership with the COC next. Stay with us. The UFC PI is so advanced that in 2020, the company announced that their Shanghai facility had become the official performance advisor and training facility of the Chinese Olympic Committee. Of course, the Chinese take the Olympics incredibly seriously, so this is a massive coup for the UFC and their goal of breaking the Chinese market. For the UFC brass, having their name associated with the COC is a massive step forward and bringing the sport into the mainstream in China, which is where they want to be. The facility allows Chinese athletes to train for domestic and international competitions, and so far has produced athletes who have gone on to perform at the Olympics. 7 Olympic athletes train at the facility and have so far won 18 Olympic medals, which again has vindicated the partnership. And training alongside Olympic-level athletes can't harm Chinese MMA fighters. Half of the game is mental, so being around guys like this day in, day out can only be a good thing. There is a close correlation in the training of MMA fighters and Olympic athletes. So the center serves more than just one purpose, allowing world-class athletes to train together in world-class surroundings. What do you guys make of the UFC's partnership with the COC? Good idea? Next up, we're discussing localization. There's no doubt about it, China and the West are pretty different, but the UFC has done a fantastic job at coming across as culturally sensitive and aware in China. They have partnered with local broadcasters, agencies, and other sponsors to come across as more inclusive. They have also done a great job at making the UFC a global product. It doesn't belong to any one country, and their message that MMA transcends borders is one that allows everybody in the world to feel as though they are involved. They have done this by creating locally relevant content for a range of different parts of the population. One example of this is in Japan, where a high demand for UFC has seen the company develop a Japanese language UFC Fight Pass, which contains the entire UFC library. This only strengthens the company's grip on the market and shows an emerging market that the company is willing to invest in their local citizens. In Korea, athletes take part in media days in and around the time of their fights to try to get more local interest, which seems to have worked. There are also social media UFC channels and pages in local languages, and the UFC's own website will change to whatever language the country you are accessing from is in. Whatever happens in the future, the UFC should be commended for their approach in China and Asia on the whole. What do you guys make of all of this? So what does the future hold? Let's see. Ever since the Fertittas bought the UFC back in 2021, global dominance has been the end goal. Turning the company into an iconic, easily recognizable brand has always been the plan, and they have always had their eyes on the Asian market. And why wouldn't they? Asia is home to almost 60% of the world's population, so at this point, the UFC's business plan in Asia is only going one way, forward. In just a few short years, MMA has gone from being a secondary sport in Asia to a mainstream powerhouse, and millions of people now tune in every weekend to see the best of the best go up against each other. Given how much money the company has invested in its Asian market so far, there is absolutely no way they're going to back off now, especially with being on the cusp of dominance in the region. You can fully expect them to keep on pumping millions into the partnerships and facilities they already have in place, and you can probably bank on the fact that within the next decade, we will see our first male UFC champion. I mean, we already have 25-year-old Song Yadong tearing up the bantamweight division, having only been beaten once in 9 UFC fights. As always, thanks for tuning in today, and remember to join us again next time for some more fun and games. And why not do us a solid by liking and sharing today's video, whilst also subscribing to our channel so you don't miss out on any more great content in the future. Bye guys!